Hi everyone, welcome to the Better You podcast. Today's episode it's about introverts, the quiet power of being an introvert. Today's guest with me is Megan. A backstory is that we met on an airplane back to Malaysia. And honestly, I believe in fate. Like I believe that we meet certain people for a reason. And of all people, it was Megan. So, welcome, Megan, to the podcast. Maybe you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everybody. I am Megan. I was born and raised in Penang and I went abroad at 16 to start my studies. I have finished my bar course and you can say that I'm currently a lawyer to be.
Nice having you here, Megan. We're going to have a really fun episode today, honestly. First question is how much of an introvert would you say you are?
I would say I probably sit at the 75 to 85% mark, and the spectrum depends on my mood and how much I've been socializing at that during that particular period.
For me, I would say, like, outwardly, people think that I'm extroverted because I'm
Mm,
friendly. But honestly, the real me is very introverted. I enjoy my time alone. But I think I love spending time with people because I like getting to know new people. Too much really just drains my energy. I will say though, like with the right people, I can see like my extroverted side like showing up. What are some characteristics or signs that makes you identify as an introvert?
I think I am most productive when I'm in solitude. I work faster and I become hyper focused when I am working by myself. For sure, I need to recharge after social interaction, and I do find that my time frame for social interactions is very, very little compared to true extroverts. I think we can appear extroverts, but just look at the amount of time we spend in a social setting. Maybe 2.5 hours, and we're like, yeah, I gotta go wash my hair. Actually, I just gotta go home and sleep. And the third thing is probably that I'm better in one-to-one conversations. I think I prefer one-to-one conversations over a group of five people type of conversation. I do most of the time avoid being the center of attention in social situations. I think those are the four traits that make me realize how big of an introvert I am.
I'm going to touch on the point about one to one. Like, I totally
Sure.
relate to that.
Yeah,
I think I'm someone like I love to connect people on a deeper level, not just
for
like
sure.
surface level small talks.
Yes.
So
Mm,
that's a sign also. I feel that's why I'm more introverted than extroverted. For me, I know I'm introverted is like I like my own space. So after a day with friends or, social event at work, I really need at least a day to recharge. And
for
I
sure.
realize like it helps me to show up better for people also. I don't know whether you can relate to this is or the listeners can relate to this. I can spend a few days not going out. Honestly, like just staying in bed or just being at home. Some people ask me this, like, how can you do that? Especially like extroverts, they just really need to get out of the house. But don't you agree that being at home, there's so much things to do?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
like,
think I'm the most entertained when I'm at home.
yeah. And plus, like, not doing a thing is also a thing. Like, just lying in bed, having your own solitude is so peaceful.
I agree. I I do think that most introverts have a very big world in their minds. I think
Mm.
introverts by nature we're quite imaginative. We're quite creative. We love thinking about things that might not happen as of now. I think we're more imaginative in the sense that we know how and what we can mine up in our brains. And so just being by ourselves and just thinking about these things make it very interesting. We don't really have to have a group of people to talk about these things necessarily, but just thinking about them is fun.
Would you say then, because we are, there's so much going in our head space, that our energy like gets so drained? That's why we don't really have much energy for like the outside world.
I definitely agree with you. When you have too much fun by yourself, you then come to a realization over time that only you understand what your thought process is like.
Mm.
And you then also decide, I think there a lot of times it's also an active choice apart from the fact that we're quite drained by sitting in our own headspace. It's also that we try our best to not further drain or further waste energy to explain these things to people because we understand ourselves so well. I think that's another trait that I see amongst a lot of my introverted friends. There's a lot going on in their heads and they're very lazy to explain to other people. They find it draining.
That's a very beautiful way of you describing introverts. some people as an introvert, they might find it as like, oh, I wish I was more extroverted. So I like how the way you've described things and said like it's more like we want to save our energy for ourselves or, someone that can add value. So that's a good way.
Yeah.
What's the biggest misconceptions people have about introverts?
I think it's the fact that we're either shy or antisocial. I think those are two biggest misconceptions because I find that people often think that I'm extroverted because I'm very social. And I am very social. The extroversion introversion part is really just the way you gain energy. Some of the biggest extroverts that I've seen in my friendship circle, at least, is that they are the quietest people in a room in a social setting, but they just enjoy being around people. And I did go up to this one friend who appeared very silent or silenced. It felt as she just had to sit in silence in that setting. She said, "Well, Megan, I just like being around people. That's enough for me. I don't have to contribute. I don't have to actively engage. But just seeing people speak, just being surrounded by people, allows me to feel like I'm safe." And I was like, "Oh, so that's how you gain energy, then." And I think that was when I also debunked that myth myself. In my head at the time, extroverts were meant to be very social. They were meant to be the loud ones. But I realized, no, actually, they could be equally as quiet as some of the deceived introverts, I'd say, but they just like being around people. And for us introverts, I suppose that's completely different in a sense that we're not antisocial. It's not always necessary that we're going to come across shy. We just need a lot of alone time and we thrive when we're alone. But we are also equally aware that as humans, we're social beings. We need to be in groups. We need to communicate. We need to allow our ideas to exchange. And that's when we also can be quite sociable, I think. So that's the misconception and how I debunked it.
Mm, good examples and great way of, summarizing everything. Like, I totally relate today, especially when I'm in my friend groups. I think I can be like one of the loudest people. But
Sure,
after
yeah.
that, like, I'm a true introvert. Like, I need to, okay, go back home, recharge. I need to go back right now. And true enough, whatever you just said about extroverts, like, I sometimes in the past, I used to get shocked when I ask people, are you an introvert or extrovert? And then the person that I thought is a true introvert is actually an extrovert. It all boils down to the misconception. It's not about you being sociable, you are directly like extroverted. It's more like how you gain the energy. How has being an introvert affected your relationships and the way you show up?
I think for strangers, it doesn't affect much because with strangers, they're just really brief interactions. And if you're social enough, you're fine. But I think when it comes to proper relationship, that relates to those that happen between our close ones. Is that right? Is so well, people who are close to me know my social habits, so I wouldn't say that being an introvert has affected my relationship negatively. So I do make it clear to them about my social habits in a way that I like going to cafes at odd timings. Surrounding conversations are less likely to distract me, and I I can be more comfortable and be more open with you in that sense. And I also make it clear to people that if you want to be in a social setting and you need someone like me to, warm up the atmosphere for 45 minutes, sure. But if you want to have deep conversations and if you want to really have my time and so I can attend to you, please do it one to one. Make it clear to them. And so my thing is to really minimize or even from the outset prevent any potential negative effect being an introvert can have in your relationship and your social habits is to make it clear and be very open to people around you that you prefer certain setting over the other and just be genuine. That if you need space, request a different timing. So I sometimes get a lot of spontaneous requests or invites from my friends. Like, Megan, should we go this cafe tomorrow morning? And I was like, you know what? I need my social time because I just came back from a social event last night. How about we do it next Wednesday? You pre-plan and so you know how to apportion your time and your energy leading towards the meetup or the social meeting. So it then becomes more productive for both parties, I think. And it makes it more comfortable as well. So why not?
Spot on.
What about you?
You highlighted one of the points that I was going to make also because in the past I used to be such a people pleaser where I really want to, build that connection or maybe just trying to fit in. I would accept invitations, which I truly maybe at that
Didn't
point of
want to,
time
yeah.
I didn't want to, but I didn't know how to say no. What I've learned now, which I'm so proud, is that try to reschedule or fit in a time where I can show up better for people. I always try to put like a day in between where I'm resting. It all ties back to you knowing yourself, right? I felt like introvertedness has like affected my relationship is in a good way. It allowed me to know myself better now and set boundaries so that, I can show up better for everyone and split the energy accordingly. Being an introvert, which I like, is, having those one-to-one conversations to build meaningful connections. I think that
For
has
sure.
thrived in my own personal relationships, be it like
Mm.
friendships or romantic ones. Going back to how you know yourself, like I know I love deep conversations. So that's why I love just being an introvert. Have you ever been mistaken as shy when you were just being quiet because you're tired?
Initially, I think, especially when it was spontaneous, I think we all went through a phase in which we would just say yes to things because we either didn't want to miss an opportunity or we didn't want to disappoint. And
Mm.
so when it was spontaneous enough that I actually didn't have the time to pre-plan or mentally prepare, then that was when I could really appear shy. But that happened years ago until I realized my social habits and started appearing as very loud and extroverted. And people are like, I can't believe that you're an introvert. But I am probably one of the biggest introverts out there. But perhaps the most useful thing that I can provide is how to remedy this potential misconception that we might have a part of contributing to. I think it's helpful in a way, like what you said earlier. I'm genuinely curious about what others had to say, and so to me, listening and being an active listener was only a part of being in a conversation. I actually appreciated the opportunity that I had to observe one's body language and their reaction, the many emotions that you can see flowing through the way they make their eye contact. In a way, I was listening to their emotions, listening to their tonal quality, and I was feeling what they had experienced and living their memories vicariously. Just being immersed in that sort of one-to-one deep conversation helped me forget the fact that I was actually tired or mentally unprepared because I was tending to that person rather than being in my own hate space. When I get to feel that person, at least temporarily, I get to live their life temporarily. I remember I was talking to you on the plane because I'm the only child. I was listening to you talk about your life as an elder sister, and I remember temporarily feeling how you felt. As much as I can't relate to you completely because I'm the only child and I grew up that way, but I got to feel you as a person, as Batrisha, and as an elder sister. I've always loved meaningful conversations. And perhaps something that could be applied more universally in the sense of how to remedy when you come across as shy or being mistaken as shy is to have that mindset shift. Um, to have that switch in mind going from, oh my God, I need to hear this to, oh, I actually get to feel them as a person. And not just listen to what they have to say, but to feel what they have been through in life. I remember Cillian Murphy saying in one of his interviews that he loves reading novels because you can find so much empathy in it. But I'd argue you'd find more empathy when you actually immerse in one-to-one conversations and be with people directly. And again, this is not a panacea, so do allow yourself some time after you've been out there. Don't push it too far. Give yourself some alone time after you've had a lot of interactions, I think.
Very beautifully said, Megan, and I'm so inspired. Whatever you just said, you're such an empath, all I can say.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's so sweet of you being present in that moment, and because you're curious about the person, you genuinely want to know about them and you try to also connect to them. Like for my case, that's how it feels like to be an eldest daughter, even though you're not one. Just thinking back, I realized something that was my maybe weakness is that I always wanted to have the last say in everything in the past. When you've mentioned about actively listening, that's something that I've started to do. Just be present in that conversation and also be curious about what people want to say about themselves. I think
Hmm.
that builds a connection. And if you're truly a shy introvert, that's a good way where you're just being present and listen, also asking questions. For me, I realized like whenever I've been mistaken as shy, it's because like I wasn't putting my energy for myself. Like what we've been talking about, like I've been better at putting myself in the right social setting also. If there's any people that you feel don't bring out the best in you, that's what I've done is to find new friends or to find, better social circles that you can truly be yourself. That's a tip from my end. Do you believe introverts can thrive in loud environments like social media or public speaking?
I do. And I think this is going to link back to what I had said previously about how introversion doesn't actually necessarily equate to stage fright, shyness, or hypersensitivity to external opinion. And of course, there are traits that make us appear less likely to thrive in social settings compared to extroverts. We've talked about it earlier as well. So things like this would include we don't really like being the center of attention, we get tired of the crowd very quickly, or compared to extroverts. And we do have, I think, a slower ability compared to extroverts to give people the reaction they want. But there are also other traits that make us stand out as well. As much as that was a bit of a generalization. One of the most important traits, and what I've seen in myself and others, other introverts who are really great public speakers as well, is we're less active, but we're more reactive in that sense. If we were to be in a public speaking environment, I think we are more able to sense how our audience react, and we are then able to fine tune our demeanor, volume, and vocabulary accordingly. In other words, I think we're more emotionally sensitive to all of these tiny signs that we pick up on. And I think the same sort of thing applies to social media creators as well, because the question is about social media or public speaking. So the first
Mm.
part was about public speaking, but I think it is equally applicable to social media creators in the sense that when they have something to put out, or when they have a point that they want to drive, for sure they're able to do it. It's just that they might have to spend more time in fine tuning their demeanor to suit that particular target audience as compared to, very loud or extroverted social media content creators with a very distinct style. I think that's the only difference. But for sure, we can thrive. There's no hard and fast rule to say that because you're an introvert, you don't belong. I think we all belong.
Yeah, well said, Megan. So I'm actually I like public speaking a lot. Like back in high school, I used to go for like public speaking competitions. So to answer that question, honestly, I believe that this has nothing to do with whether you're introvert or extroverted. Anyone can be in public speaking. Like Megan say, like just go for it. Just take me as example is like I'm a true introvert, but I love doing all this. I also started my own podcasting channel. The point where you make I want to touch on is about we are more reactive. It is something that I've never thought until now. And when you said that, I resonate with it because I do see myself in a room of people. I'm quick at reading the energy, try to maybe change the topic or try to be more inclusive and get more people to join the conversation and just make them feel more belong. I think that's a characteristic maybe for some introverts is that we are very observant. We might not be participating in all conversations, but we can read the room, and that's a true quality of an introvert. I think that's something very admirable. Looking back, I think I need to redo my MBTI test because not gonna lie, this podcasting hobby of mine, me interacting with people, I think I've become a lot more extroverted.
I think the MBTI or the sort of percentage or ratio of different MBTI traits, they have different categories of tests, will vary depending on your life stage as well. And maybe interacting with more really good people or people who think it on the same wavelength would be able to bring up that level of extroversion.
Being an introvert means you need time to recharge after socializing. How does your ideal day alone look like?
Doing things by myself. And most importantly, I think the things that I've really, really liked doing these days is watch films or read up on things that I'm interested in. And sometimes I like watching video essays. So you have like 20 to 30 minute worth of video with people talking about, like creators talking about a certain social phenomenon and how has that evolved over the past 10 years or so, these sorts of things. And I think watching long form content as opposed to doom scrolling really helps to feed into my soul. It nourishes me. So it nourishes me mentally. So that's what I like doing. And I like it because you get to have a brainstorm process by yourself. Like in a way, you're still interacting with ideas, but not with a physical human and not with people who have consistent rebuttals. You're just watching a content, thinking about it, and watching other similar contents or similar topic, but from other content creators. And you then come into a conclusion with your own thoughts. That's what I like. I like sitting down and thinking about these things by myself, references from other social media content creators, but not really have another physical person to debate these ideas with. That's my ideal day alone. I also like decluttering, so everything in a way that's like goes from digital to physical, really. I like to clean my room. I like to clean my mailbox. I like to clean my camera roll. Again, because this is things that I like to do by myself. And playing instruments, I have been playing the piano since I was 7. That's what I really like doing as well. Hobbies that don't really require a lot of external participation. You're just doing it by yourself.
Interesting ideal day alone. I was gonna say about the decluttering. Is it the Marie Kondo concept? Have you heard of the Marie Kondo concept? There's this
Oh,
Japanese
really?
lady.
Oh.
Yeah, I think, is it on Netflix or there's a documentary about it?
Mm-hmm.
She, because we find it very hard to throw away sentimental things. And
For
her
sure.
concept is about, teaching how can we do that. I was quite curious whether, that was something that you've watched her. The first point you made about watching social media content creators, if the listeners are interested, it sounds to me like it's very knowledgeable. Like, where can people find that? Is it on YouTube or where do you usually watch
It's on
it?
YouTube. It's literally on YouTube, and you just have to search up social phenomena of Labubu. And then you
Okay.
have a ton of videos coming up. You just look, and I think over time, when you start searching up for things like that, you have a list of content creators that you just really, really like. You start having actually similar values, and you develop a, I guess, parasocial relationship, like a parasocial friendship, and learn from. I think that's very important because sometimes I could watch these videos for 5, 6 hours. As an introvert, I might not be able to do that with a physical person in a physical setting for the same amount of time because I'm gonna get drained halfway, you know? But to have this sort of active engagement with someone who is very knowledgeable as well, but virtually will help you to learn more about yourself and the way you think about certain things and learn about the social phenomenon as well.
At your own pace, I was going to add. For the listeners who are introverts, this is something that, probably you might want to take up because I'm definitely going to check this out. You said, right, in a physical setting, let's say you have a course or workshop for 6 hours straight, I'll be like so drained. But like for this online, you can always pause and come
Mm.
back to it or watch it another day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can watch from different content creators as well.
Mm.
Essentially talking about the same thing, but they're obviously gonna have different opinions because they are probably raised in a different background. They have different opinions, and one's gonna have a more economical standpoint. One is gonna talk about it from a more empathetic, what is this gonna do to our future generation type of standpoints. You do have a lot of different ideas coming from different perspectives. I think that's wonderful. That's a very nice way to gain knowledge as well.
Yes, that's a beautiful thing. You're always learning and everyone has different point of view. I was very curious because recently I feel like I'm stuck in doom scrolling, on social media and it's so unhealthy. I'm trying to find something to watch, but it's not really knowledgeable or something I feel that is valuable. So I'm going to check that out. My ideal day, very simple. It's just doing things I like just getting
Mm-hmm.
up in the morning, and if I'm not working, I just spend the whole morning in bed. I realized that I like dressing up and putting makeup. It's therapeutical.
Mm-hmm.
Some people actually just wake up to make themselves
Yeah.
look good and feel good.
Yeah.
We just like don't really need to go out. What other things I do on my ideal day? I like to fantasize going around the city and just spending time alone walking or just doing grocery shopping. Just spending
Yeah.
time alone in that is really nice. I
Mm.
cannot forget my AirPods, like stuck in my own world, going through the busy city of London.
What's your introversion level?
I haven't done the MBTI test recently. I need to do it.
Mm.
But I think the last time I did it, it was really, really high. I think it was like 80 to 90%. Yeah, that's quite high.
Perceptible.
It
That's very high, yeah.
it's really high.
And that's why I can understand why you have this sort of hobbies and the way you spend your day alone. I mean, these things that you're doing right now are very, very therapeutic for those who have really high level of introversion, in their personality. Another point of reference for those out there, if they find watching video essays a bit boring, this is maybe another way to spend time by yourself.
I also have been recently like reading self-development books and started painting also. So it's very like
Mm.
in my own world kind of thing. And
Yeah.
for painting, right, I realized it helps with my focus level and my patience. Because
Oh, yeah.
you need to like, be very gentle and really patient with the strokes. Always ending the day with a warm shower and probably just like delivery or cooking. I think for me personally, I like small things in life. Like all these small things, it really brings happiness to me. So if the listeners, you want to try something new out, any of what we suggested, I think is good.
And I think it's these trivial things that make us true living being.
Mm.
Ultimately, we work to live, we don't live to work. So we gotta find joy in these little things.
Have you ever felt guilty for needing space from people you love?
No. I need to be able to recover and recharge to find my true self again before I'm able to provide and continue to attend to those who require my attention. So I don't think it's a wellness thing for myself. It's also something that I have to do for those who need my attention and I think who need my advice. Not to say that people need my advice, but when I'm conversing with someone and I hope to bring something of value, I think I need to be at a state where I am completely recharged before I'm able to give my best in that sort of setting.
I'm just gonna say, all the guests that I spoke to, I'm so inspired, including yourself, because the past me would say, yes, I will feel guilty. But
Mm,
the healed me now,
mm,
I've been putting boundary, and that's why I'm so inspired by all my female guests. You guys put yourself first, and you guys know the boundary is it's not that you're selfish, it's more like you want to show up better for people. So the current me who has healed and worked on myself knows that me needing space is not selfish. It's my way of loving myself and also indirectly letting others know I have my own space to respect. So I'm not guilty now. Instead, I practice that mindset in life because it's your way of recharging and you loving yourself for your own well-being,
yeah.
and
Mm.
you're able to show up better for your loved ones.
I think it's necessary. So don't feel sorry.
Have you ever wished you were more extroverted? Any tips for putting yourself out there in networking or social events for those listeners struggling with this?
I've never wished to be more extroverted because I knew for a fact that just because I'm introvert doesn't take away the fact that I am good at socializing with people and I'm genuine with my feelings. I think one thing about people like us, and I can see it in you, is that we're very open, we're very sincere. And so that makes us someone who is very sociable. People are happy to talk to us. And we often make time and the space and the sense of safety for them, they can confide in us and tips for putting myself out there. Throughout this podcast, we've had sprinkles of it. More importantly, which I think is the most common reason for introverted people to not put themselves out there is a mental blockage or the sort of preemptive fear of rejection. You say, oh, if I put myself out there, if I said something stupid, how would others think of me? How would that make me seem as a person? I don't want to look foolish. Remove that. Remove that mental blockage because I think the worst one can say is no. And the worst one can do is laugh at you. But you often have to know what your objective is in that social setting. So if I were at a networking event and I really want to know more about this, say, partner, this associate who is working in a line of work that I'm really, really interested in, then I have to talk to them. My fear of missing that opportunity overpowers my potential fear of embarrassment. And so having that helps me remove the mental blockage of any potential, oh, I don't want to embarrass myself, that type of hindrance. Always remember, as I said just now, the worst thing someone can say is no.
Mm.
And the worst one can do is to cold shoulder you. But that doesn't matter because ultimately it's doing what you can control. We can't control others' reaction, but what we can control is how we hold yourself, how we exhaust every attempt that we have in that setting. Another tip is to get used to being uncomfortable in social settings. Again, don't push yourself too hard, give yourself some breaks in between, but sign up to more networking events. I think you start appreciating your talent as an introvert of being reactive over time because you know how to use it to your benefit. And that comes with practice. It doesn't come naturally, it comes with practice. Years and years of talking to the teachers, years and years of, speaking with lecturers and firm recruiters, then you start to understand how to switch to that sort of more extroverted, more social side of yourself and really use that sort of introverted talent to your benefit.
Very useful tips, Megan. It's also very similar to my tips for the listeners. I'll just go back to the question first to answer the first point. Have I ever wished I was more extroverted? Not gonna lie, sometimes I admire how extroverts get their energy from people. It's more from that point of view. I'm also trying to figure out how do they do that. Because
Mm,
I cannot understand, I get so drained.
mm,
But like you, I don't want to change, anything about me because that's me. I'm an introvert. That makes me who I am. For the tips on networking and social events, very similar to whatever Megan has said. She was spot on that. is honestly just go out of your comfort zone and putting yourself out there. Because you won't know how well you can do something unless you try. Like she says, the worst thing someone can do is either laugh at you or don't even acknowledge you, yeah, in that social setting. Then it's fine. Like, then that person is not worth your energy. Let's say if it's someone you really wanted to meet, then it didn't meet your expectation, that's fine. It's not a reflection of who you are or how good you are at conversations. It's probably that person themselves. Do not let that stop you from going all out and having more conversations with people, because go back to like why you are there. What do you want to make out of that situation, right? So long you are genuine with that, then I don't think anything else is worth you being sad about. And also, my other tip would be think of yourself as the main character in that room. Like, walk in as though you own the room. Because for me, I truly believe what attracts people to someone is not how they look, how tall or how pretty they are. It's usually the energy that they give out. So when someone walks into the room, all eyes will turn when you're self-confident, not in an arrogant way, but you carry yourself well, and fake it till you make it, like they say. Have those conversations, you do well. Last but not least, to wrap up, Megan, is there any advice you have for introvert listeners who struggle to make themselves feel seen or make new friends?
All what we said, I believe, would be very helpful pointers. I
Correct.
think
Yeah.
one of the most important thing is being genuinely interested in people. You don't necessarily have to gain energy from that, but be interested in people. Have that mindset shift instead of thinking, oh, I need to listen to them again, to, oh, I get to feel this person on a whole new level. And that sort of mindset shift will allow you to open up. As much as you're not probably the best with words or the best with socializing and giving the sort of reaction people want, you are still someone that people are comfortable in talking to. And people, one thing about people, we often love having people who attend to us. We might not like talking, but we like focused and bespoke attention. That's just the human nature. Being someone who's open, willing to listen, I think is a more powerful tool than being someone who's just good at socializing. Be sincere, be genuine, and be genuinely interested. That's perhaps the first step. You can then start going to all of these social settings and learn. Extroverts are very, very respectable because sometimes they just have that in them. They have the je ne sais quoi. They just know certain things, what are the best things to say at a certain time. And eventually, when you pick those up from them after going to social settings and just listening to their conversation, that adds up to your experience. And so, two things: being genuinely interested in people so you can be open and sincere. And second of all, get comfortable in getting uncomfortable and push yourself, not to the extreme, but push yourself enough so that over time you get comfortable in social settings.
Whatever Megan said, right, like, is so true. People usually don't remember what you say to them. They remember how you make them feel. Megan made a good
Mm,
point about even if you're shy, if you are a great listener and you make people feel safe enough, people remember you compared to those
mm,
people who talk a lot and
mm.
try to talk about themselves. People love talking about themselves. While you, right, encouraging and asking questions to them, honestly, you're on a good starting point. My advice is about, I think we talked about feeling seen in a room. Maybe making new friends is just be open, like Megan say also, just be open and curious about people. And honestly, have confidence in yourself enough to know, like, if you don't feel great in a social setting, it's okay. There's so many other fish in the sea in this world that you can, click with, right? That's worth your energy. And just be gentle with yourself. Like, celebrate that small milestone of you even talking to one new person in a day. I think that will bring
Mm.
you very far, and that can act as a personal motivation for you, especially if you're shy. Just want to say, you listening to this podcast or you trying to go out of your comfort zone is something very admirable and courageous. So you should be proud of yourself.
A very encouraging thing that I'm gonna say is if Megan can do it, you can do it too. If you can walk away with anything, I hope it is this. If Megan can do it, I can do it too. Honestly. Not to say no excuse, but keep trying. You'll get there.
Correct. Like what's stopping you is honestly yourself and your maybe mindset. So we're not saying like, whatever mindset you have is wrong, but it's just being more open-minded and don't let that be a limiting belief of like how much more you can achieve. All right. Thanks, Megan. I really had so much fun today. I think hearing your perspective about what being an introvert means to you, having two perspectives is very helpful for the listeners. And I think they can take away so many tips that you and I both shared. How do you find the session today?
I found it very interactive. I like that. I think as much as I had things to offer, I think I was able to gain a lot from this podcast as well. And I hope this applies to introverts. We can all learn from each other, and I think it's always finding an example to know that it can be done. I am glad to have, not to say to be the example, but to have been able to contribute to becoming that example at least. It's got to be a social phenomenon that introverts are up and coming. We are on the rise. Very, very fruitful, insightful, and hopefully an inspirational podcast for those who are listening as well. Thank you for inviting me, Patricia.
Thank you for coming today. Really had a good time. To the listeners out there, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Stay tuned for the next episode. Bye.
See you. Bye.